Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. Do you want to learn how you can better support your autistic friends, family members, or coworkers? This episode is part 3 of my conversation with Terra Vance and Kate Jones, which was originally released on October 7th, 2021. Terra Vance is the founder of NeuroClastic, an autistic-led nonprofit organization that publishes articles by autistic writers and professionals advocating for autistic representation and human rights. Kate Jones is an artist and visual designer at NeuroClastic. In this episode, we discuss why some autistic people are against ABA, or applied behavior analysis, how to teach neurotypical children to interact with autistic peers, utilizing special interests to optimize learning, collectivism and interdependence as crucial for supporting autistic people, and advice for non-autistics on how to be better allies to the autistic community. In this episode, discover what's possible when you listen to autistic voices. And now, I present you Terra Vance and Kate Jones.
I think that our remarkable capacity for memory plays a lot into our personalities. And, we forget a lot of things like people's faces. Sometimes we forget dates and where our keys are. But if we, when something is important to us, we tend to remember it forever, sometimes verbatim.
Yeah.
And so we might quote each other like 6 months later, some, very obscure thing that seemed to be in passing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to say, I have really paid attention to you and I'm responding to you and I've memorized the contours of your personality and the things that you love. And so our whole lives, we've been taught that that's wrong.
Hmm.
And that's selfish. I remember being told one time, because I don't buy things for myself. I don't do things for myself. Like I go broke constantly because I donate everything I do, at least 120 hours of free labor to like public service every single week. And so I have been told by non-autistic people that I was selfish because I won't remember your birthday probably, or I won't respond or the way that you expect. But it's just been really jarring sometimes, the comments that I've gotten from non-autistic people. And this is one reason that autistic people are so opposed to ABA therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the therapist really loves children and really cares about autistic children, they will not be able to set goals. First of all, you can't set goals in ABA that are not ableist. Insurance won't accept it, at least in the United States. So the goals have to be basically, what is this behavior that we can change that upholds the status quo? That is really what ABA is. And so, every ABA therapist is like, oh, I'm not trying to make this person less autistic. I'm just trying to make sure they have a better life and that they don't get bullied and blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand that society already does that to us and they're just escalating a process. And what really needs to happen is society needs to just listen to us and understand that we have our own internal heuristics. And people say, well, that's just you high functioning autistic people. But like Kate and I, yesterday or day before, we have this 13-year-old non-speaking poet. His name is Anantha Krishnamurthy. He publishes on NeuroClastic. And he and I have been having this, without even directly communicating with each other, this profoundly, it looks psychic. It is so profoundly empathetic interchange of just reacting in this way to each other's just random things that we've said. And he's putting them in poems that his mother, I talked to her last night. She doesn't really understand what he's saying, or why he's coming up with these things. She's very curious to understand, and she loves to hear that these things aren't random. There's a profound empathy driving them. And this is someone that we've only personally interacted in like 2 Zoom meetings briefly. But because we don't automatically get each other, we have to make manuals, and autistic people have to learn the non-autistic manual to survive, because non-autistic people have the privilege, because you vastly outnumber us, to just say, these are deficits that you need to change. And so that is why ABA therapy can be so inappropriate, vastly inappropriate for us, because we shouldn't be taught to perform, even when they think, I'm just teaching you to use the bathroom. Well, why are we not using the restroom independently? That's a sensory issue. We can't feel it until we're too full, or it's a connective tissue disorder, like most of us have, that, our tissues stretch too much. And so we can't control them as well as people without a connective tissue disorder. And so is it healthy and normal for child development to have a stranger dress and undress them aggressively over and over, to force them to sit naked on a toilet in front of them? Or is that abusive because it's not a behavior that they are intentionally, engaging in? It's a sensory issue that needs an accommodation. And so a lot of us at NeuroClastic have talked privately, and a lot of autistic advocates have talked privately, that we use like incontinence products. We have a man who is a very successful bioengineer, and he was talking about, he never wrote the article, but he wanted to, about how he wears pull-ups every day. And so people at his job don't know that he's autistic. There's nothing sad about it. He has relationships. He's a father. He's fine. It's not that big of a deal, and no one knows. But it's just, why do we have to be so aggressively trained to be someone else? That's not natural. That's destroying our developmental trajectory to have it constantly interrupted, with or without ABA, with or without speech and language therapy, with or without occupational therapy.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to Kate's graphic, that black and white one. If you're constantly being told that you're not enough, or that something is wrong with you, that can cause a lot of harm in the long run. Now, what do you think, going back to the kind of communication breakdown between neurotypicals and autistic people, what would you like to see taught in schools about how to communicate with autistic peers?
NeuroClastic has published some, we call them neuro-inclusive stories, and they're kind of a clapback to these god-awful social stories. That this is not to come down on social stories as they were originally intended, to help one specific child by making a story about that child so that it would reduce their social or just their anxiety in general about new situations. So they were intended to help autistic kids process things in advance so that they would be less nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly the behavior industry, in the way that they do things, and their benevolent colonizer ways, have created this spin-off of social stories where they're just generic, where they teach autistic kids to behave like non-autistic kids. So, this is how you play with your peers when there's a game, and they're shaming. So we create a clapback to that called neuro-inclusive stories that are intended for autistic and non-autistic kids, and to all learn. Some people, like one is called chatting versus info dumping. So it says, it shows children, and it shows that some kids like to talk just a little bit about a lot of subjects, and that's called chatting. And some kids like to talk about one subject very deeply, often. And it shows that you can let this child who really is obsessed with vinyl records or trains or jellyfish or whatever it is, that you can allow this person to bring their context to a conversation. And then you respond with your own context. And then you can understand that they're asking you basically, how does my thing relate to your thing? So you can include the way that they need to learn is to understand things according to a familiar and safe and enjoyable and understandable context. So we know that contextual learning is advantageous. And we try as educators, as a teacher, we get trainings on this all the time. We need to connect what we teach to prior knowledge. Autistic kids do that amazingly. We are wired to do that. We aggressively seek to connect. We love learning. So we want to connect things to our prior knowledge, but our teachers don't allow it. I had this one student who was, his highest grade was a 13% in any of his classes. And I was an English teacher, so I could really get away with this. I noticed that he was writing in these composition books every single day, all day, fan fiction novels based on this old cartoon that was for adults called Invader Zim. And my husband, when I first met him, he had a shrine. This is a very autistic thing. He had a shrine in his room of Invader Zim, like plush, collector's items and things they're all from the 90s. And I didn't meet him until 2012. And it was pristine. His house was a wreck, but this shelf was like a religious shrine. And so I had that context. Autistic people tend to gravitate to the same things. So a lot of autistic people out there are still doing Invader Zim all the time, even though, that was from the 90s, because that's what we do. We are drawn to, and I'm positive that was autistic creators, because, that's why we get drawn to the same thing, is because we recognize mind structured like ours. But anyway, I just let him do every single assignment within the context of Invader Zim. So if we're writing a story that's a memoir, I just let him write as if he was personally Invader Zim. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
He had like a 98% in my class after that. And, this kid who's writing advanced novels every single day with like profound understanding of writing and literature, just innately, and remarkable grammar and syntax. And why would he need to fail? Because he wasn't doing the things that everyone else was doing. Well, that's fine. Doing what everyone else is doing is going to get you nowhere as an autistic person. So I just let him do what he wanted. The work he produced was amazing. Instead of asking him to do grammar worksheets, I asked him to correct his own work, his novels. That when he finished one, he just left it on the floor wherever he was and started a new one. Wasn't even trying to save them. He just loved to do it. So why can't we do that with autistic kids? That's how learning happens, is tying it to pre-existing context. So,
and that's sort of done in schools, at least it is here anyway. So my kids' teachers pick a theme every term, right? And that's their classroom theme, and they do all their learning based around theme. What's the difference if it's a special interest and you do all your learning around your special interest?
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that the difference is that the teacher picks one, the school or whoever sets curriculum, and the autistic child picks the other. And one is given priority because there is a sort of hierarchy of worthiness of what is worth dedicating a whole lot of time and energy and passion on. But, the format is there for it already in every school. We pick a theme, you work to it. You learn all sorts of things in connection with that thing.
And non-autistic people, remember when I said that they operate in gists and vagueness and approximations, and they're multitaskers. Non-autistic people are multitaskers. And so there's this underlying value that is especially prevalent in Western, predominantly white countries, that is hyper aggressively valuing independence. And that's never going to work for autistic people. We're not independent. You wouldn't have a surgeon or an airplane pilot or someone with a highly technical, specialized job answering their own calls, doing their own taxes and paperwork. But that is what non-autistic people excel at, doing a lot of things, right? So autistic people are specialists. We would be fine if the surgeon and the secretary made the same paycheck. I would have no problem with that. I don't even care if I make a paycheck. Like, I just need to be kept alive and let me do these things that I can really do, that I'm wired to do, that I love so much that you can't make me go to sleep or quit working. Like, I will do it all day, every day, but I can't shop for myself. I can't meal plan. There's a theory about autism that Dr. Dinah Murray, who just passed away a week or so ago, revolutionary autistic researcher who created this theory of monotropism, or autism as a difference in interests, having very hyper specialized interests, and the converse, non-interests. And so we're specialists, and a lot of the most pioneering, world-changing people like Tesla and Einstein and Flannery O'Connor and just all these literary greats and all these scientists and astrophysicists and quantum physicists were autistic people, and they were amazing, but they also were super weird. They didn't blend into society at all. You know, Tesla, he got hit by a taxi going to feed his pigeons that he loved more than people. Mm. And then he died in his hotel room with no one knowing that he was injured because he didn't want to talk to them. I know exactly why, because I would have done the same thing. We are pioneering. We are chaotic. And in our process, it will be really nice if we had more interdependence and more collectivism, so that we allow people with these, and you know, we might not even have profound talents. That, you know, you have people like Cody Lee, who won America's Got Talent. He is one of about 25 people in the world with a total audiographic memory. So if he heard a song when he was 2, Mozart, he can play it right now in his 20s.
That's impressive.
Even if he's only heard it once. It is. It's remarkable. Or Stephen Wiltshire, who can fly over a city for 3 minutes and then draw the entire city, like every window on every building, when it would take most people like months to learn to navigate small portions of a city. He can do the whole thing in a few minutes, and he was diagnosed as severely intellectually disabled as a child. We're not disabled in the way that people believe. We have an uneven distribution of resources, and we need to be allowed to work in a way that advantages us according to our strengths. And we need accommodations for the things that we can't do. We can't be asked to be the well-rounded, neurotypical person that everyone else is, who can do everything, because we never will be able to.
And I guess that's in sort of the big circularity of everything, that takes us back to where we started with, you know, NeuroClastic, which is why it works. It's because it has all sorts of people with all sorts of special interests and skills and passions coming together to educate just on their thing, the thing that they love. There's never any pressure. When I found NeuroClastic as a community and joined the contributors group, it was just like the nicest collective space that I'd been in, there was never any pressure from anyone to do anything. There was just like, we need someone. Has anyone got an interest in this? Because this needs kind of doing, I guess. And then some people would just show up and say, yeah, I really love that. I'll do that. And when we have meetings, it kind of makes me laugh sometimes because it's wildly accessible. So you'll have like audio and closed captions, and then people are sharing screens, and then checking that everyone's understood things, and does anyone need a summary? And then someone will say, oh, we could do this, and then say, but just to let you know, I'm not saying that you have to do this, I'm not the boss. We're just like, it's just everyone just taking really good care of each other and not putting heaps of pressure on. It's a collective, and I think that's why it works as well as it does.
Hello, Rachel here. Would you like to share your own perspectives by participating in roundtables like this one? Join our online global autism community, a safe and judgment-free space where all kinds of people connected to autism regularly discuss important topics like autistic identity, dating on the spectrum, coping strategies, and many, many more. And as the new month approaches, we vote on which theme to discuss next. We'd love to see you over at community.globalautismproject.org. I would like to close with one last question. What advice would you give to neurotypicals who are looking for ways to be better allies to autistic people?
Read and follow autistic advocates and creators. Pick those people who are heavily involved in the autistic community, who are NeuroClastic. I'm biased, but we have people from 6 continents, from all intersections of being autistic with all of the co-occurring conditions. And we have non-speakers, and people always say, you're just a bunch of privileged, blah, blah, blah. But the same people who are being shocked at Judge Rotenberg Center, when given access to meaningful and reliable communication options and the right accessibility and respect, and, a communication and regulation partner, that is something that we advocate for. That works a whole lot better than electroshock. Pay attention to us. We aren't just, a bunch of shiny, quirky, slightly different from neurotypical people. We're everyone, and you will understand us, and we can really enrich your world. And so we don't need saviors unless you want to help us with our paperwork. Oh my goodness. And marketing.
Yeah.
Yes. We would really love someone who understands marketing to help us. But otherwise, just pay attention to us, share our content, read about us, interact, ask us questions. Oh my goodness. We love being asked questions. Information sharing is our love language. Ask us questions and let us help you. Don't be offended if our answer is not what you expected to hear, if it doesn't address your emotions. We're trying to help you in a practical way because that is our love language. So if they want to love their children, they need to love us because we are them in the future. So yeah, that's what I wish they would do. Pay attention to us and believe that what we have to say is important.
Yeah. And for me, it's similar. I think sometimes neurotypicals see how we react out of trauma in spaces where we're being criticized, and they see that trauma response from autistic people as being typical of how we engage with the world. And it's not. What I would love is just like Terra said, is for neurotypical people to come into our spaces and watch how we interact with each other when we're just being ourselves. I know that you said this in the past, Terra, but just hang out in the comment section of NeuroClastic and see the hilarity of people discovering things and learning about themselves and sharing. And yeah, just get comfy with a completely different way of connecting. I think autistic people don't so much socialize as connect. Socializing seems kind of frivolous and without purpose, but connecting always has purpose. And that, what are you saying about complementary functions? There are things that are just very few of us are very good at, like marketing. Selling ourselves is not our thing. So if you ever wanted to donate your time or your skills as a complementary function to autistic people, that would be a great act of allyship. Ask what you can do for autistic people rather than what we can perform for you by being shiny and savant in some area. There's so much that happens where, autistic people get a platform because they have some particular gift that they can perform something that's entertaining. And some people really can, but they still deserve space just for being a human, not for how much entertainment value they can provide. And, lots of us don't have some special gift that we can perform much better than anyone else. And, we're just humans who stuff that we're strengths and challenges. So that, and also autistic people do a lot of educating all the time, and it's labor, and it comes at the cost of our energy, which is limited because we're already spending a lot of energy, emotional and physical energy, just negotiating a world that isn't set up for us. So if you invite an autistic person to come and do some labor for you, ask what you can do in return, how you can repay that. Maybe it's a financial thing, or maybe you've got something that you can give back. So give back where you can.
Yeah, we love bartering.
Yeah.
Because that's that interdependence thing. Here's my thing and here's your thing. When we talked about a job board, everybody said, hey, we want to trade our skills. That's what the autistic people wanted more than anything. If I'm a podcaster and I need a graphic designer, can I set someone up with podcasting and teach them how to grow their audience or how to navigate the tech, and they can do some illustrations for my branding? So non-autistic people could help us that way too. We had a non-autistic person recently say, I'm a photographer. Is there a way that you can use my skills? And that was amazing. Yes. Here are things that we never have stock images of because, nobody cares about us to take pictures of us. And, if you type autism into stock image search, you see a bunch of screaming kids that are faking a meltdown, or you see them in ABA therapy. And that is not what we need or want. Yeah, I think that's a very autistic way of being an ally. And a lot of people compliment us on our ability, or say, you're so articulate. That's kind of an insult to us. They don't mean it that way, but that's just more of a neurotypical type of compliment. We need to hear compliments that are like, this was meaningful for me. This helps me to understand my partner better, or my son better, or my, whatever, my clients better. I will use this information that you gave in my practice. Autistic people are chronically underemployed, so a lot of them have tip jars. Pay them. That would be great. Donate to them. Donate to autistic-led orgs. NeuroClastic really needs. We don't know how to market. We don't try. We have no advertisements because we generally hate capitalism. So we rely on donations. When you do your birthday fundraisers on Facebook, do NeuroClastic and tell other people why it's important to platform autistic people. So, yeah.
And one more thing. When you go on trainings to understand autism better, seek out training that is delivered by autistic people. It'll be a better quality information, and because we know ourselves. You run the risk of being educated by somebody who is misinformed. It's a bad investment, but also you put money into the pockets of autistic people. Help us. So all good.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for just your honesty. I think this is going to be such a good episode for our neurotypical audience to really put themselves in your shoes and take that perspective and hopefully build that bridge so that the double empathy is no longer a problem.
Thank you so much for having us and for the very thoughtful questions. This is great.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Although the theory of the double empathy problem is fairly new, there's a growing body of research to support it. For decades, autistic people have been thought of as lacking in social skills. Advocates of the neurodiversity movement are suggesting that autistic people merely have a different way of communicating, rather than a deficient one. By continuing to understand the autistic lived experience, non-autistic people can learn to take their perspective and avoid assumptions about how someone may be perceiving a specific situation. Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. If you're autistic, did Tara and Kate's explanation of autistic burnout and empathy resonate with you? If you're not, what did you learn about the autistic lived experience from listening to this conversation? Share your takeaways over in our online Global Autism community. Whatever your role related to autism is, you can join our Global Autism community to connect and collaborate with people all over the world. Sign up today at community.globalautismproject.org. Let's work together to transform how the world relates to autism. Thanks for listening. Take care.